Hello, everybody. With the time being 7 o'clock on this beautiful December 13th, I would like to call the Planning and Development Committee to order. Can I please have roll call?
Sulcata?
Here.
Leitner?
Here.
Munger?
Here.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Petrillo?
Here.
Werbaugh?
Here.
Bessner?
Here.
Weber?
Present. All righty. We have nothing for omnibus vote tonight, so we will move right along to item 4, section A, recommendation to approve the amendment to Title 18 of the Municipal Code. I believe we're going to have Monica Hawk present.
Good evening. Before you, as you've already mentioned, is the recommendation to approve amendments to Title 18 of the Stormwater Management Ordinance. And just for a little bit of background, the city has adopted and administers the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance. In June of 2018, City Council approved revisions to the City Code to adopt the updates to the Kane County Stormwater Management Ordinance. And those revisions included a list of developments to be exempt from the changes to the ordinance. In your packets is a list of those developments. There's 5 projects that are on that list currently, and that table also includes an update of the status of each of those projects. So 2 of the projects, staff is recommending extensions for those developments that have approved subdivisions or PUDs that have, for which those projects have not yet obtained stormwater permits, but they're active projects with approved plans. And there are 3 projects that staff does not recommend extensions for. Those projects either having expired PUDs or subdivisions or expired building permits. So staff did not believe that there was a basis to extend those. So the recommendation would be that they just be removed from the list. I also wanted to take this opportunity to flag an upcoming agenda item that we will have probably early part of next year. And it is related to the stormwater ordinance. Sometimes subdivisions and planned unit developments have detention facilities, and the long-term maintenance of those detention facilities are the responsibility of a homeowners association or a management company. The stormwater ordinance requires those developments that benefit multiple properties that there be a special service area established as a backup vehicle, essentially, in case the HOA does not follow through with their obligations, there's a backup for that maintenance. So there's a couple of projects that we're going to bring forward to you, like I said, early next year, but this was just an opportunity to introduce you to that. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments.
So regarding the HOA projects, or what you're referring to there, it's not a blanket for all HOAs at this point. It's just some projects you're going to bring to us in the future.
So currently there's a couple projects that are recent projects that are under construction right now and that have recently been approved. So those are the couple that we're going to be bringing forward to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Werbaugh.
With the exception of the 2 developments, Pride and Hillcroft, going forward, everybody that must comply with the storm water management ordinance with any future developments, they're not exempt. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Rita.
Sorry, I think I heard you, but the maintenance requirement of the SSA, that's new, you're saying, or no?
No, that is not new.
Right, I didn't think so.
Right. It's been a while since the city has established SSAs.
Okay. So the new ones that are going to be introduced in the new year will be looking to have that.
So these will be projects that have already been approved through the subdivision process and are under construction right now. And these are projects that we're going to bring forward to establish that SSA.
This establishing, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? So I'm looking for a motion and a second to amend the City Code Title 18 based on the staff's recommendations.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved by Petrillo, seconded by Wirball. Can I please have a roll call vote on that?
Wirball,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Kulturitis,
Yes.
Leitner,
Yes.
Baumgart,
Yes.
Montioni,
Yes.
Trillo.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is a presentation regarding housing initiatives and the 2021 Housing Affordability Analysis. Just let me preface this by saying this is just a presentation from staff. No action will be taken tonight. This is strictly informative. I do know that there is people that want to talk on this topic. Once the presentation is done, go ahead and come to the podium and make your comments. Just please state your name and your address so we have it for the record, and everything is flowing nicely. Thank you. Go ahead, Russell.
Thank you. I just wanted to provide a brief introduction before turning the presentation over to Ellen Johnson, who is our planner who works with the Housing Commission. The City of St. Charles has had housing initiatives in place for a number of years. It really has been a leader locally in taking proactive measures to try and encourage both the preservation and creation of affordable housing. And a significant component of this is the city's Inclusionary Housing Ordinance. And that ordinance has a requirement to provide affordable units or a fee in lieu with projects. And that it is a unique requirement, as most municipalities in our area don't have something similar. And it can also be a significant cost item for development projects. Early next year, the City Council will have an opportunity to set the affordable housing fee in lieu amount, as that is typically done on a yearly basis. So we thought it would be valuable to provide a broad overview of the city's current requirements, programs, and the funds in order to provide some context for future discussions. And those would be future discussions both of housing policy potentially and also development projects where there would be an affordable housing consideration. So with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Ellen.
Good evening. Let me pull up my PowerPoint here. Okay, so for tonight's presentation, I'm going to go over first the definition of affordable housing under our ordinance. I'll touch on the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act, the City's Inclusionary Housing Ordinance, and the fee in lieu, other inclusionary housing ordinances in Illinois. I'll go over the Housing Trust Fund and programs we have under that fund. Also, briefly explain the Housing Commission and their work, and then finally I'll conclude with reviewing the results of the 2021 Housing Affordability Analysis. So first, when we talk about affordable housing here at the city, what we're referring to is a defined threshold, which is outlined in our city code, and it's also in line with the Illinois Housing Development Authority parameters. So for owner-occupied housing, affordable housing is housing that has a sales price that is within the means of a household with an income at or below 80% of the area median income. For rental housing, affordable housing is affordable to a household earning 60% of the area median income. So to be considered affordable for those income thresholds, housing costs cannot exceed 30% of gross annual household income. To define area median income, that is the median income for the 7-county Chicago metro region. St. Charles is grouped into that. Sales price and rental amounts for the target income thresholds are then adjusted for household size. So for example, as shown on the slide, the household income for a family of 4 at 80% of the area median income is $74,500, and the affordable price for that family would be a home of about $207,000. On the rental side, household income of family of 4 earning 60% of the area median income is about $56,000, and then the affordable rental amount would be $1,454. Just to give you an example of what the income levels we're talking about. So in 2003, the state of Illinois passed the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act. The act was in response to increasing home values that were outpacing incomes across the state, particularly in the Chicago region. And it was put in place in an effort to encourage and promote affordable housing options statewide. So every 5 years, the state identifies each community's affordable housing percentage, and it comes out with a list that is released about every 5 years. So communities that have a housing stock that is 10% or more affordable are exempt in that they are meeting the goal of the act, which is for each community to provide at least 10% housing that is affordable. Communities with a housing stock under 10% affordable are not exempt. These communities are required to submit an affordable housing plan to the state. That plan needs to identify locations for affordable housing, and it also needs to set actionable goals towards promoting and furthering affordable housing in those communities. Non-exempt communities are also subject to developer appeals to the State Housing Appeals Board, which has the power to overturn municipal zoning decisions under certain conditions if a developer is proposing affordable housing and is denied and feels they were wrongly denied. The city of St. Charles is exempt. We have been above 10% since the act was put in place. The last determination was in 2018. The state found us to be at 17.1% affordable, and the next finding is expected from IDA in 2023. So in 2008, City Council adopted our Inclusionary Housing Ordinance. This is Title 19 of the City Code. The impetus behind the IHO was a report completed in 2005 by the City and Metropolitan Planning Council that was called the St. Charles Housing Action Plan. The report found that housing prices were outpacing incomes and that the city should be proactive in addressing this phenomenon so that moderate income families could continue to find housing options here in St. Charles. So the plan recommended that the city create a housing commission, adopt an inclusionary housing ordinance, and establish a housing trust fund, and the city has done all three. The city started by forming a housing commission, which was first tasked with creating the inclusionary housing ordinance. The ordinance requires residential developers to provide a share of affordable housing units within new development, or to pay a fee in lieu of providing actual units. So for small developments of 1 to 15 units, 5% of units must be affordable. For developments with over 15 units, 10% of the units must be affordable. For example, for a 50-unit development, 5 units would need to be affordable to meet the code. There are development cost offsets built into the code in order to incentivize actual creation of units. Those include building permit fees being waived for the affordable units in a project, waiver of utility connection fees, and waiver of school and park cash contributions. Also, a density bonus is offered, which allows up to 1 bonus unit for each affordable unit, up to 120% of base density. So those incentives are offered for developers that are proposing to include the affordable units. And City Council does have the authority to accept either the units or fee in lieu for any project. So as a direct result of this ordinance, 75 affordable units have been created. These units are all in the Anthony Place project and constituted the affordable units required for the Prairie Center development. As Russ mentioned, St. Charles really is seen as a leader in the area of affordable housing policy within Illinois. Inclusionary housing ordinances, they're sometimes referred to as inclusionary zoning. They're a regulatory tool used across the country to encourage and mandate affordable housing. And St. Charles was one of the first communities in Illinois to enact an IHO. We're seen as a leader in the region, especially here in the Fox Valley and in the western suburbs. We're now one of 7 communities in Illinois that have these requirements. 2 other communities, Geneva and Naperville, either have or are recently considering offering incentives for creating affordable units, but not creating a mandate. So the IHO does provide an alternative for providing affordable units within a new development. Developers may pay a fee in lieu of providing units, and this fee is set on an annual basis by council. The fee is charged only for the affordable units that would be required. So when the IHO was first adopted in 2008, the fee in lieu was $140,000 per required affordable unit. The fee has been lowered and adjusted down over time. In 2013, the IHO requirements were actually suspended for a period of 3 years because at the time the IHO, the applicability of the IHO was tied to our affordable housing share. So it was found that because our affordable housing share reached a certain level, we essentially could turn off the requirements of the ordinance. The IHO was then reinstated in 2016 in an amended form, and the fee in lieu was set then at about $73,000. This $73,000 number was chosen based on a formula that was suggested by our Housing Commission, calculated as the cost of a 25% down payment for 2 affordable units. That formula was chosen to kind of give a rationale behind the fee, but the fee does not necessarily need to be based on a formula. In 2018, the fee was cut in half to about $36,000. And last year, for the first time, City Council chose a 3-tiered approach for the fee. Council discussed that incorporating affordable units is more feasible in multifamily developments, and the per unit construction cost is lower as well. Construction costs for townhomes fall between multifamily and single family. So the 3 tiers are multifamily. The fee is $39,666 per required affordable unit, $27,766 for townhomes, and $15,866 for single family. And the graph on your screen shows the resulting fee for a 50-unit development. So that constitutes fee in lieu for 5 affordable units. And that's what the developer would be required to pay at the time of first building permit for the subdivision. So fee in lieu payments from developers are placed in the city's housing trust fund. Those funds can only be used for eligible activities as listed in the city code. These activities include producing affordable housing, acquiring land and buildings to provide affordable housing, grants or loans to nonprofits serving eligible households, third-party administration of housing programs, financial assistance to eligible households with rent and home purchase, financial assistance to preserve and maintain existing affordable housing, and weatherization and emergency repairs to units occupied by eligible households. So the current balance of the Housing Trust Fund is about $700,000. The fund started out in 2006 with an initial $500,000 contribution from the developer of the Reserves subdivision, and this was actually done before our Inclusionary Housing Ordinance was in place. It was negotiated with the developer. Since that initial contribution, the fund has grown by receipt of fee in lieu payments. So the city currently has 3 programs which makes use of the Housing Trust Fund. We have the Home Rehab and Accessibility Program, FirstTime Homebuyer Program, and we participate in the Kane County Affordable Housing Fund, so I'll be discussing each of these in turn. First, the Home Rehab and Accessibility Loan Program began in 2010. Assistance is offered for home repairs and necessary improvements in the form of a zero-interest loan with repayment is deferred upon sale of the home. Recipients must be income eligible at 80% AMI. The program does mirror a similar program offered by Kane County, the Kane County Home Rehab Program. The county offers $20,000, and then an additional $10,000 is offered by the city if the funds are needed for the project. So since that program began 6 St.Charles homeowners have benefited. We also offer the FirstTime Homebuyer Loan Program. This offers assistance to first-time homebuyers to help make purchase of a home in St. Charles affordable. Assistance comes in the form of a zero-interest loan, again, due back upon sale of the property. Recipients must be income eligible as well at 80% AMI. So this program also works in conjunction with the counties. So $10,000 is offered by the county, and then another $10,000 from the city if required to make purchase of the unit affordable. So we have had a number of prospective home buyers inquire about our program. but no loans have been issued since the program began, not for purchase of a St. Charles home. So I think this is mostly because given St. Charles home prices are higher than that of other communities within the county, home buyers have chosen to purchase elsewhere, and they still are eligible to receive Kane County funds. But the program is out there and it is available. The city's final current use of the Housing Trust Fund really has the greatest potential to make a significant impact on affordable housing. In 2018, the city began contributing to the Kane County Affordable Housing Fund. This is a fund created by Kane County to provide gap financing for the preservation and development of affordable housing. It provides financing to developers for acquisition, rehab, new construction of affordable homebuyer and rental units. And the fund is made up of a combination of HUD funding sources that Kane County receives and also contributions from the St. Charles Housing Trust Fund. And obviously, St. Charles funds can only be used for projects within the city limits. So the fund is administered by Kane County Office of Community Reinvestment, and each year they issue a call for proposals where developers may propose projects and apply for funding. The proposals are reviewed by the Kane Elgin Home Commission, and then for projects within St. Charles, for which St. Charles funds are requested, if approved by county staff and Kane Elgin Home Commission, that recommendation moves forward to our Housing Commission, and our Housing Commission has the authority to approve Housing Trust Fund use for those projects. This program really provides two main benefits to the city. The first is that it allows funds to be leveraged from multiple funding sources to make projects happen in St. Charles instead of the city's Housing Trust Fund funding a project completely. It's an efficient mechanism for use of the Housing Trust Fund. It's a way to offer up our trust fund resources to developers and who then propose how to use them. So the county's Office of Community Reinvestment staff administer that application process, and they really have the ability and the expertise to review project financials and assess feasibility and make recommendations on financing of projects. So this participation has been crucial in getting projects done here in St. Charles and creating affordable units. So since we began participating, we've done one project a year. In 2018 and 2019, county and city funding was granted for the purchase and rehab of 1432 Dean Street and 704 Adams Avenue. These homes were in very poor condition and required extensive rehab. The homes were completely redone and then resold at an affordable price to income-eligible homebuyers. So the end result of this is first, obviously, an affordable home for the buyer, but also it's an improvement to the neighborhood because both of these units were eyesores for the neighborhood. Last year, the City Council decided to offer up a city-owned lot on Moore Avenue to include in the Affordable Housing Fund, and this was part of a property purchased in connection with the 7th Avenue Creek project. The lot was offered as a developable site for the construction of a new home, and a developer did propose construction on the lot, and the city transferred the lot at no cost. And the house is now nearing the end of construction, and it will be sold to an income-qualified buyer. The 2021 call for proposals is out now, and it is our understanding that GC Housing Development will be applying for funding. They are the developer of Anthony Place, which is the affordable senior project on Prairie Street. As you'll recall, last year, City Council approved PUD plans for Anthony Place Phase 2 across Lincoln Highway next to the, near the Salvation Army store. So it's our understanding that GC plans to apply for use of St. Charles Housing Trust Fund through the Affordable Kane County Fund. They also are applying for low-income housing tax credits from the state. So hopefully that represents a significant project for us. And if we can help get those units constructed through use of the Housing Trust Fund, I think that would be a big win. So now moving on to the Housing Commission, I did mention them briefly previously, but to provide some additional background, the Housing Commission is an advisory body to the City Council, and they're charged with advising on affordable housing policy and programs. The Housing Commission was instrumental in creating the Inclusionary Housing Ordinance, and they have recommended changes over time when deemed necessary. They've also worked to create and promote our housing programs, and as mentioned, they're charged with approving Housing Trust Fund financing. The commission is made up of 9 members, including a representative from the City Council. Alderman Lencioni is our current rep. Also representatives from the School Board and Park Board, and then 5 at-large members, and as well as a Plan Commission rep. And we do have our chair and our vice chair present. Our chair is Liz Eakins, and our vice chair is John Glenn. So with that, I'm going to move on to the affordable housing analysis. If there's any questions on what I've covered, I'd welcome those.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Ed.
So, if a developer decides to put in affordable units, is it correct that those affordable units cannot be distinguished from the other units? There's restrictions in place for that, correct?
Yes, that's correct. They're supposed to appear the same from the outside. On the inside, they can use, like if it's a rental project, they can use different materials. Like they don't have to use granite countertops, that sort of thing. But from the door, it needs to appear to be the same unit.
Okay, and then when you had mentioned that on one of those houses that you showed as an example, that if someone purchases a home under the affordable housing policy, they can use funds to remodel the home, but then isn't there a rule in place where they can't sell it for so many years, or no?
So if a unit is created under our inclusionary housing ordinance, if it's an owner-occupied home that is created under the program, I believe the period of affordability is 15 years.
Okay.
So there's a deed restriction stating that it would have to remain affordable for 15 years.
So they can sell it, but it would still have to remain at that affordable?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. So the full report, the affordability analysis for 2021, the full report was included in your packet, so I'll just highlight some of the findings. So the city has prepared this analysis since 2009 in order to inform the city's decisions regarding housing policies and programs and to track the city's standing with respect to the Affordable Housing and Planning and Appeals Act. So this table shows the overall affordability findings for each year that the analysis has been conducted. Our affordable housing percentage has hovered in the low 20s for the past several years. The analysis is divided into 2 parts, owner-occupied housing and rental units. The results are then combined for an overall affordability finding. First, we determine the number of affordable owner-occupied units in the city by calculating the affordable home price and then tallying the number of units that are under that price. Staff has used the same formula for calculating that affordable home price since 2009, and that formula was initially used in the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act. That's referenced as Method 1 in this report. That home price is based off of area median income adjusted for a 4-person household, and that resulting affordable home price is $235,928. But IDA no longer uses this formula to calculate affordable home price when determining APA compliance. So this year, staff began to do a second method as well. We used the owner-occupied affordability housing charts that are published by IDA annually. So these are the figures that IDA creates, and IDA has indicated that these figures should be used to track compliance with APA. So that's what we have done this year. So the Method 2 affordable purchase price from IDA is $207,083, and that's also for a family of 4 earning 80% AMI. So staff felt it would be appropriate to use both the past methodology in order to provide a consistent means of comparison, basis of comparison for past years, and also IDA's number in order to get a better understanding of our situation in the eyes of the state. So then affordable rents are also per IDA's affordability charts, and rents are affordable for households at 60% AMI adjusted for family size. And then those rental rates are listed up here on this slide. To determine the number of owner-occupied units under that affordable price, we use St.Charles Township Assessor market value data. And then for rental, staff collects rental rates from the various apartment complexes in town. This slide lists the results of the analysis. So under Method 1, which is the method that's been used in years past, a total of 25.4% of owner-occupied units are considered affordable, 12.4% of rentals are affordable, and for an overall affordability percentage of 21.3%. for method 2, which uses that lower affordable home price, owner-occupied affordability drops to 10.8%, rental 12.4%, for a total of just 11.3% affordable. So the method 1 finding for owner-occupied affordability is nearly consistent from last year's finding. Rental affordability did decrease. We were at 14% last year. This decrease was caused by addition of new market rate units at Prairie Center. We also found that 135 units that were previously considered affordable are now over the affordable rent threshold due to rising rental rates. So those constitute lost affordable units. In general, rents across St. Charles complexes do rise each year, but the increase was more significant in the past year. There are only 2 market rate apartment complexes that provide units at or below the affordable rents, comprising only 45 units. All the other affordable rentals are within income-restricted, subsidized developments. The overall affordability finding of 21.3% was slightly lower than the 2020 finding, which was 21.8%, and it is the lowest affordability percentage since 2011. This graph shows the median home sale price over the past 15 years. The median sales price in 2020 was $305,000, which is the highest in the past 15 years. This reflects a continuation of a trend of increasing prices over the past 5 years. And I will note that the sales data used in this report is from calendar year 2020. So given the current housing market, it's expected that next year's report, that median home sale price will be quite a bit higher for 2021. So in terms of affordability, 22% of home sales in 2020 were under the $235,000 affordable price, and 11% were under the $207,000 affordable price. And that's similar to the overall owner-occupied affordability findings. But in conclusion, St. Charles affordable housing stock remains above 10% affordable, regardless of the methodology used. However, affordability has dipped slightly. The impact of COVID-19 on the housing market is not fully reflected in this report, so next year's analysis should provide a better understanding of the COVID impacts on affordable housing here in St. Charles. It is also expected that rental affordability will continue to decrease as well, based both on rising rents, but also on anticipated new rental development of market rate units. So where possible, incorporating affordable units within new residential developments, new rental developments in particular, would help to offset this trend. So looking ahead, the inclusionary housing fee, as Russell mentioned, will be reviewed by the City Council in early 2022. And also, as I mentioned, kind of a bright spot on the horizon is the potential for Affordable Housing Fund and St. Charles Housing Trust Fund financing for Anthony Place Phase 2. And we will keep you apprised on this project. And I'll take any other questions.
Questions? Go ahead, Mr. Bongard.
Can you talk a little bit more about the change in methodology? So to swing 10% in a year, so IDH changed their method, but what was the change?
So back in 2004, when IDA initially passed the act, there was a method that used kind of a complicated formula that I can share with you, but it builds in some assumptions on property taxes, interest rate, to come to that affordable housing price. And we've used that since we started the analysis in 2009. However, IDA has issued these affordability charts for the past several years, and they have always differed from their initial methodology. I don't know why they decided to change their method, but it's really a simpler method that they use for their yearly affordability charts. All they do is take household income and divide it by 0.36, which is an industry standard for getting a rough idea of an affordable home price. So that is what they use now, and that's what they're directing us to use for tracking our status. When they released their report coming up in 2023, which was the case in 2018, they used a different formula, again, than is on those annual charts. It's a little bit more specific. It builds in more local property tax data and makes some other assumptions. So we still anticipate their number in 2023 will still be different than the number that they issue every year, if that makes sense. It's kind of been a struggle to determine what would be appropriate to use, and that's why in this report we use both so that we have all the information.
So the next question would be, what's the likelihood that we slip under 10% with prices rising? We just swung by the methodology change. We went from a nice cushion of, 10%, 11%. Now we're right on that border.
Yeah.
Fast forward 15 months, 16 months, as we talk about potential development projects, do we need to start having conversations about where we at threshold-wise?
I mean, it's definitely possible that we'll slip below because we do seem to be close.
Like, strong, like...
We haven't dipped below yet. Their last finding in 2018, I think we were, what did I say, 17%? Is that right? Let's see. Where did I put that? Okay. Yeah, 17%. So that was based, if they continue to use the method they used for that report, then I would assume we would be okay. But that remains to be seen.
If we slip below that, what's the, we'll be required to report to the state our plan?
Yes.
What's the timeline? How quick do we have to do that?
I believe Ida has been pretty lenient on timelines. We would have to submit an affordable housing plan that the council would have to adopt, and that would have to we'd have to identify specific locations for potential affordable housing. We'd also have to identify a goal and steps that we would take towards meeting that goal. I have talked to IDA staff in the past, and they've indicated that St. Charles really is known as being proactive in housing policy, so we really already have in our ordinance, and we already have all the components of what is typically within a plan. So we would probably state what we're doing and then additional steps that we could take.
Go ahead, Rita.
Yep. Ellen, you said in your report that your numbers are based on multifamily rentals, correct? Apartment complexes, because it's easy to access that information. What percentage of our rental stock is not part of that you can't even count? That's a good question. That's all uncounted, like all home conversions, two flats, anything that's not defined by the township assessor as rental. Actually, I take that back. Even if it is defined as rental, we don't have a way to track rental rates because we don't have rental licensing programs, so we don't have good data on the number of rental units within converted homes and also, what rents are charged for those. So you have no idea how many there are really, just ballpark? We can ballpark a number, but we don't have any idea of the rents. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. The monies that currently are put aside, $700K. The one program, the home improvement program, it says 6 since 2010 has been utilized. The second program, 0 since 2017, and then the last program was it? Did you say 3 or 4?
We've done 3 projects.
It seems like I'm glad that we have this program. Number one, I'm glad that we have funds in it. I would love to be able to find a way to utilize that $700,000 that's there for, right?
Yes.
I know we're just talking, but how can we utilize that more? What can we do with that?
Yeah, that's definitely been topic of discussion. The idea behind participating in the Kane County Affordable Housing Fund was seen as a way to potentially use a good chunk of that funding. It's a way to put that funding out there for developers to propose projects to us. The projects that we have received that have been completed over the past few years, kind of the one-off home rehab projects, are smaller, obviously. If there's a, say, multifamily project like Anthony Place Phase 2 that's proposed that requests use of our funding, that can be an opportunity for a much larger chunk of our fund to go towards creating affordable units.
Could any of that money be put towards a family looking to rent somewhere in the community that maybe, based on income and stuff like that, $200 a month could be allotted to a family to be able to make it affordable to them, thus increasing the percentage of affordable housing we have, but then we're utilizing that money? Is that something?
Yeah, so all of the eligible activities under the city code that are allowed as use of housing trust fund, that includes financial assistance to eligible households for rent and mortgage payments, in theory, we haven't had that program before. I think the thought in the past has been that investing in homeownership programs kind of invest back in the community and create more permanency of affordability versus paying rental assistance, but that's an allowed activity under the code.
Go ahead, Brian.
How are residents and families made aware of these programs? Do we advertise? How does that work?
Yeah, we do advertise in a limited amount. Obviously, the information is on our website. We have flyers that the Housing Commission has been working to distribute throughout the community. We've advertised in the Den newsletter before. We did a mailer in the utility bill in the past. We do get calls, inquiries about the program. The problem is that the eligibility requirements, obviously they have to be income eligible, but there's also limits on the home value cannot exceed a certain amount. Obviously there's certain repairs that are eligible and some are not. Also some projects, since the county offers $20,000 first, some projects don't need the additional funding from the city, the additional $10,000. So, yeah, but that is a topic that the Housing Commission has been discussing, is how we can better promote programs.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I was going to ask a similar question. If there's, since rather than putting together a plan to the state, maybe be more proactive and putting together a communication plan or something like that, but it sounds like the commission is working on that, like you said, so.
I don't think we have any more questions up here. I will now, thank you very much, Ellen. I will now open it up to public comment. Like I mentioned, when you come up, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carl King. I'll try and keep this as short as possible. I've been known to be a little bit long-winded sometimes. I apologize. But yeah, kudos to St. Charles for, as you mentioned multiple times, being proactive and having this program in place. I know I was talking with Councilor Payleitner earlier, and she was talking about how Mayor Klinkhammer had fought to institute this program, as well as others, to continue it on. So kudos to St. Charles. But I want to encourage our city to do better. Teachers, firefighters, postal workers, this kind of program was what was put in place for them. And I just want to say, for the record, I've been homeless in St. Charles. I was a pastor of a local church, a member of Kiwanis, a postal worker, and homeless in this beautiful city, all at the same time. I'm not here to shame or scold, but to encourage us to connect our ordinance and the money that we have in this fund to our community members who desperately need housing. When our city officials told me about this presentation, I knew I needed to be here to represent Kane County United, and I even invited some friends and a sister organization to join in addressing the council. Some could not be here, but have written letters to provide clarity of the situation on the ground here in St. Charles. If you'll just give me one more moment, I'd like to read this letter from Pastor Mary Sajak of Baker Memorial Church. She says, to whom it may concern, my name is Reverend Mary Sajak, and I'm one of the pastors of Baker Memorial United Methodist Church. We've been providing assistance to homeless or barely housed people in St. Charles for a number of years. Working with these persons, many of whom are long-term residents of our area, has been eye-opening. First, let me say that many people work very hard to get out of their current situations. They work through barrier after barrier. However, when they're finally at the point of either having disability payments or a job for the first time in a long time, there is literally no place for these hardworking people to live. The inventory of rooms to rent in a shared house is quite low and costly. A room typically rents for between $650 to $750 a month. This is approximately 80 to 85% of what a person on Social Security disability receives per month. For people who are not on disability, coming up with a security deposit as well as the first month is a major challenge. There are also very few low-rent one-bedroom apartments in our area. The challenge here is that landlords are now requiring an income of 3 times the monthly rent to qualify. An apartment that rents for $850 a month thus requires an income of $22 or $25.50 per month to be able to rent it. And most people who are working entry-level jobs do not make $3,600 per year. We do have low-income housing available for senior citizens. However, they are fully subscribed. Carroll Towers currently has a waiting list of about 100 people for their just 100 units. Where do these people go? People I've come to know end up paying someone for an illegal sublet, which you all spoke to, which leaves them without legal address, couch surfing with a family member for a fee, living in a garage, living in their car, or living in a hotel as much as they can, and being without shelter when they cannot afford it. This is a painful and sad state of affairs for our beautiful city. Please consider expanding the availability of low-income housing in our area. Sincerely, Pastor Mary Sajak. I apologize, Steve. Carl King, Campton Hills Drive, 2815, St. Charles, Illinois.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First off, thank you for allowing me to make public comment tonight about this so very important issue in our community. My name is Edward Manning, and I'm a member of St. Charles Episcopal Church at 994 Fifth Avenue in St. Charles. I've worshiped there for almost 30 years, and I was asked to come here and make public comment tonight by our rector, the Reverend Stacy Walker. Now, I wrote this nice thing here, one page, and it told about what good things we do at my church, and you know, we feed the people in our community, we do this, we do that. But as I was watching that really well put together presentation, the thing that kept coming back to me was, we're not doing enough, and we're not doing it fast enough. I think, as Carl said, if you get out to the churches, if you get out to the places where people are being fed, and you talk to people there, you'll find out that there's not enough affordable housing in our communities. Slowly, it's coming in to the Fox Valley area. Emma's Landing has broken ground in Geneva. The wonderful 1212 Larkin project in Elgin is now fully rented, 48 units of affordable, accessible, supportive housing. But that's two places in the whole, Fox Valley area that I can think of. Yeah, there's a few that are in development and are being talked about, but again, it's just not enough, and it's just not coming fast enough. St. Charles, yeah, you are leading the way in affordable housing, but you need to continue to lead the way, and you need to do what Carl said, to step up and do the extra that it takes to get this housing built. We at my church hope that you don't let this opportunity to slip away right now. The wealth gap in this country is becoming larger and larger, and people are finding it more and more difficult to afford housing. Carl told a story about being homeless. Our daughter was homeless for 2 years. She lived at Hested House in Aurora for 2 years. Her condition is more of a mental health problem. And that's the kind of housing we'd like to see supported in St. Charles, in Geneva, in Batavia. Affordable, accessible, supportive housing. So please, don't forget the people that are marginalized in our society. I hope you continue to lead as you have in the past, and we get some more affordable housing built in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Good evening. I'm Laurie Baker. I'm the president and CEO of the Association for Individual Development, or AID. We're a social service organization that provides services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, behavioral health diagnoses, and we provide crisis services. We partner with the St. Charles Police Department in having victim services on call 24 hours a day, as well as providing services within their police department through a social worker that they contract with us for. We partner with the 708 Mental Health Board here at St. Charles, and I appreciate that opportunity. I wanted to thank you for the IHO, but kind of remind you of the people that we serve who are on those disability incomes that are much less than 60 and 80% of area median income. They're part of your community now and are looking for places to live and reside in their community of choice, oftentimes where they've been raised have relationships and family members and churches and other services that they receive, and it's difficult for people to be able to afford it. So when you look at that $700,000 that you have in the fund right now, you know, one of the things that you could potentially do is create a rental subsidy for very low income or extremely low income households. You could look at special populations if you chose to, people with disabilities, veterans, seniors, other special populations. Also, you could actively work with local providers and or not-for-profit developers who create permanent supportive housing in order to look at developing a permanent supportive housing project within the city of St. Charles in order to meet some of the needs for that ongoing permanent supportive housing. For years, I have worked in the housing arena, mostly around permanent supportive housing development and creation, and so we would love to be able to partner with St. Charles, you know, to look at how we could move something forward in order to meet the needs of those very low-income people that find it very difficult to live and reside in St. Charles. Thank you.
Please, Laurie. Any more public comment?
I'm looking for the drive connection. Thank you. Ah, no wonder. Thank you very much. It is called Affordable Housing. This one. Thank you very much. My name is Laurie Graf. I live at 244 Walnut Drive in St. Charles. I've been there for 27 and a half years, and I moved to St. Charles a year before that. I'm here on behalf of the Fox River Valley Initiative. I'm a member of St. Charles Episcopal Church, as is Ed, and our church is a member of the Fox River Valley Initiative, and I'm a leader within that church. So I'm a researcher by training, and so I look up data. And if I can figure out, there we go. So if you look at the data, those who earn minimum wage in St. Charles cannot afford to live here. If you look at the median gross rent according to the Census Bureau, which is not the same as what, presented, it says it's $1,288 a month in St. Charles. And we average about 2.5 people per household. Our median household income is $98,000. There are a lot of people who don't make 55% of that. There are a lot of households that don't have that level of income. We have in St. Charles 4% of people living in poverty. The minimum wage in Illinois is $12 an hour for non-tipped workers. Someone who's working full-time at minimum wage makes less than $25,000 a year before taxes, and you automatically have 5% taken out for the state of Illinois, and you have 7-something% taken out for Medicare and Social Security. So not even factoring that in, they would have to spend 61% of their monthly income on rent alone. So 4% in poverty is over 1,300 people. And again, there are many people who don't make 60 to 80% of the median income for St. Charles. I want to share with you some pictures from 1212 Larkin, which is accessible, supportive, affordable housing in Elgin. Full Circle Communities, which is a developer, requested that Fox River Valley Initiative assist them with getting approval from the city of St. Charles, or city of Elgin rather. It took a couple of years, but the mayor and the council and, the developers, the development committee in Elgin are thrilled with it. It's been financed by CIBC Bank. So the old building, 1212 Larkin, had been an orphanage, and then it was a mental health service provider. The main building that you see was not in good shape. It has been converted. It provides accessible studio and one-bedroom apartments. It also has services available for the residents who need them. The main building contains these types of common areas. There's a computer room that's available not just to the people who live in that building, but to the others who live in the apartments and townhouses that are on the square that block encompasses. It has a community room where residents can meet. It's got another community room where I couldn't get a picture because it was being used for something. But you can see that it has libraries, it has a place for people to meet. It has a laundry facility that's available to all. It's not cookie-cutter housing. As you can see, there are various types of exteriors. Some of these units have 2 townhouses, some of them have 4 apartments. In total, there are 48 units of affordable housing in this development. The insides look nice. These are newly built houses, so we would expect them to look decent. The light here is not so wonderful, but across the top we have the entryway, a living room. These are in an occupied unit. And we have the kitchen area. The bath area is from an unoccupied unit. I actually took that off the Larkin web, or the 1212 Larkin website. The neighboring houses are compatible with that. These affordable units do not stick out as being out of place in their neighborhood. They're not scattered. The 48 units are not scattered across the city. They're available in one unit. I'm sure Elgin has others too. But I just wanted to share with you what's possible to do with affordable housing and how we can serve the people who are not making as much as 50% or 60% or 80% of St. Charles' relatively high median income. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We have more public comment? Okay.
Want me to take this down? No. Hi, okay. My name is Liz Rice Convoy, and I'm a St. Charles resident. I live at 1415 South 13th Avenue. And today I wanted to share some information about how the lack of affordable housing for families with children and youth impacts the outcomes for these children who face housing insecurity, intermittent as well as long-term houselessness. So we've heard a lot of really wonderful testimonials from people, and I just felt we needed to hear their voices and hear about the impact that this has on them, because these are people who are in classes with our kids. These are maybe family members. So these are members of our community, as we've heard. So in shifting the focus, or talking about the children and youth, I just wanted to point out that some facts that I found during the school year of 2018 to 19, there were an estimated 54,237 public school students who experienced homelessness over the course of the year in Illinois alone. Children and youth are heavily impacted by housing insecurity, family stress from a high percentage of wages going to rent, as well as eviction threats and relocation. It's been mentioned several times that the wages that people take in 30% of that should be towards their housing. Well, I also found that in Kane County, 46% of renters are paying over 30% of their wages to rent. So that in itself is causing this sense of insecurity for these families and the children and youth that live in them. As far as health concerns, based on a Journal of American Medical Association Pediatrics article from this last summer, there is substantial evidence that homelessness has significant adverse consequences for children, ranging from higher rates of malnutrition, vaccine-preventable infectious diseases, asthma, obesity, and dental and vision problems, as well as countless emotional, behavioral, and developmental issues. In addition, I found that housing insecurity is associated with poor health, lower weight, and developmental risk among young children. I want to point out that we're talking about our community. We're talking about our children, the children that go to school with our kids. Providing more affordable housing will bring the hope up and provide thriving children with homes in our community. I agree that we should be proactive and do more here, because St. Charles has a lot of great things to share with communities that it's not in reach of. So, thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Is there any more public comment? I'd just like the record to reflect that we did receive, we all saw 2 letters that were presented to us, one by Joe Jackson from Hessen House, as well as one by Chuck Theory. So I just want the record to reflect that. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments. I know it's not easy sometimes to get in front and speak to people, so and we do listen, and I do respect and appreciate everything that was said. Obviously, we have some things that I think that we can work on between the Housing Commission and some money that we have available. So I think it was a very productive conversation. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Is there any comment on Zoom or anyone on the computer that needs to talk?
No.
Okay. All righty. Well, once again, thank you, everyone that came and spoke. Obviously, like I said, there's no action to be taken tonight. This is just for information only. So with that, we are going to move along to our next item, 4C, which is going to be a discussion of the extension of the closure of First Street. Go ahead, Russell.
Yes, First Street has been closed to vehicle traffic since the spring and was approved to remain closed through 2021. With the temporary outdoor dining program extended until April 2022 and the construction underway on the Plaza expansion project, staff's recommending that the street remain closed. This closure has generally been well received by the Plaza area businesses, and it wouldn't make sense at this point to reopen and close the street now that the businesses and customers have adjusted to this configuration. Additionally, given that the long-term plan suggests that for the plaza that the street would be closed permanently, staff's proposing that the closure not have a specific end date, but identify that the council would need to authorize reopening of the street to vehicular traffic. So there's a draft resolution that's been included for city council action, pending a recommendation from the committee.
Okay. Is there questions or comments on that?
Move for approval.
Go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just got to, I've talked about this before. This is public property, and we're blocking it off for the businesses in the plaza. I just think there needs to be some type of lease agreement or something. I mean, it's public property, and I just hate for them. I want them to thrive, but they're using a public street. And I know we've discussed this before, but I don't see anything about our discussions in this new ordinance.
Yeah, and so that will be a separate discussion about use of the public space, particularly the plazas for outdoor dining. This is just specifically to the closure of the street to vehicular traffic, and not usage of the street by any businesses, just the closure to traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Brian.
So have you reached out to the businesses over there just to make sure that they're comfortable with it being closed in the
Yeah,
foreseeable
so we
future?
did some, we reached out to businesses earlier in the spring, summer, back when the closures were being considered, and generally they appreciated having the activity that was occurring in the area as a result of having the street closed. So they were supportive of it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is there any more questions or comments? I know we have a motion from Alderperson Faye Lightner. Who would like to second?
Second.
Seconded by David Petrilla. Can I please have a roll call?
Wirball,
Yes.
Bestner,
Yes.
Kulkaitis,
Yes.
Hayleitner,
Yes.
Ongard,
Yes.
Montioni,
Yep.
Gillette.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, we have an update regarding the Crystal Loft property.
Yes. So there was a violation notice issued on October 26th, which the committee had previously seen. The property condition was not addressed by the deadline of November 9th. So a summons was issued for administrative adjudication, and that occurred on the adjudication on December 2nd. And at the hearing, the property is found to be in violation of the code requirements, and fines have been imposed for all 7 items listed in the notice. The fines are $100 per day per violation until there is compliance. And our goal with these fines is really to leverage them to get the site conditions addressed as quickly as possible. We understand the property is under contract to be sold. Staff's trying to work proactively with the potential owner to facilitate any approvals that they might need from the city in order to try and expedite having the site conditions addressed. That's the update.
So starting, so as of 12/2 or 12/3, the property owner's been getting fined $100 per day per violation?
Yeah, so $700 per day.
Okay. Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you for the update very much. Let's say, okay, right now the fines, are the fines against the property or the developer?
It's against the property.
So whoever buys it, we have to pay those fees, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then there's an important question for me. And at what point do we say, okay, we're going to take the next step, either condemn it or something? How's that function?
Well, I think based on where we understand discussions are right now with a potential purchaser, we'd like to try and work with that purchaser to see if we can help facilitate the sale and then whatever approvals they might need to be able to address the condition. That would be the most expedient way to get the problem solved versus the city trying to take some action to try and force the property to be brought into compliance. So I think we want to see where the discussions go over the next couple months, make a determination.
And I want to work with the new people too, but they're supposed to be closed like a month ago and nothing's happened yet. That's what concerns me. How far do we go and wait until we take the next step? That's just a comment, that's all. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Go ahead, David.
So packet mentions that its property is under contract to be sold. Any idea of timetable in talking with these folks?
We don't have specific details on the contract. We have met with them previously, I think before they had entered a contract, to provide them with some background information. I imagine there's some contingencies built into the contract because of some of the issues they're trying to understand about the property, including the site condition, environmental contamination, zoning, kind of get a handle on what's going to be involved with actually constructing a project there. So that is taking them some time, I think, to come to terms with.
Go ahead, Brian.
Are the potential buyers aware that the current owners are being fined on a daily basis?
Yes, I believe they are aware, and certainly we'll communicate that to any potential purchasers that these fines are being imposed. But our intent, as I mentioned, is not to collect these fines in a punitive manner, but rather to use them to leverage the rehabilitation of the building. So if someone could take action quickly to deal with the site conditions, the city may decide to waive those fines minus whatever costs we've incurred in the process of trying to enforce the code.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ed.
Is there a likelihood that this could go on for a long time?
There's the potential for that. I think as I mentioned, I think we want to see over the next couple months how this potential purchaser progresses in their process of determining whether they're willing to take the step to close on the purchase. I think if that occurs, then likely the action to address the property conditions will happen fairly quickly because they'll want to deal with the outstanding code violations.
I think I'm trying to see if there's a chance that this could compare to another house that we've had in the future that cost a lot of money in fines and litigation. And I'm not saying we shouldn't push the hand here. I think we need to stay on top of it, but I'm a little concerned we could go down a road of spending lots of money.
Yeah, there is that potential if the city decides to take further legal action to try and force the property conditions to be addressed. I think at this point, given that there's parties that are engaged in the potential purchase, we don't think that's necessary yet. But it is an assessment we'll need to make as to whether it's going to be worth the potential expense to the city to try and advance obtaining a court order to have the property conditions addressed, because we may not recover those costs.
Right. I guess the other question could be, what happens if we don't do anything right now? Meaning for a few months or something to see if the sale goes through and,
Yeah, I think if the potential purchaser, as I mentioned, they're trying to evaluate the property right now. I think we need to see if their conclusion is that they're still moving forward with the purchase or not before we make a decision.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Paul.
So I'm correct that it's $700 a day, and since adjudication on the second, they have been levied $6,300 of fines. They should close quickly.
Well, obviously that's the motivation.
Yes, and then I understand correctly too that we're like, okay, well, the money, instead of doing that, just remediate, and that's kind of our leverage and kind of goal, right?
Yes.
We get there pretty quickly.
Just one more.
Go ahead, Ron. Yes.
Could you just give us an update next month at the P&D meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that update. We appreciate that. We didn't need to take any action on that. Next up is additional business. I have no additional business. Russell, do you have any additional business? There's no need for executive session of this committee, so I am looking for a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
By Mr. Wordball, second by Baumgart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.